What if I told you there was once a car so fast, so revolutionary, that Detroit's most powerful men made sure it would never cross the finish line? A machine that lapped an entire field, and then mysteriously vanished from history. This isn't a story about speed. It's a story about power, fear, and a genius who dared to break every rule of physics. Welcome to the legend of Smokey Yunick's forbidden Mustang. 1969. America's racing scene was at war. Ford versus Chevrolet. Detroit versus Daytona. Every engineer, every mechanic, every driver. Fighting not just for trophies, but for pride, for legacy, for the soul of American horsepower. And standing in the middle of it all was one man. Henry Smokey Yunick. He wasn't just a mechanic. He was a mad scientist with a wrench. A man who believed the laws of physics were just suggestions. His garage in Daytona was legendary. The sign above the door read, "The best damn garage in town." And it wasn't a boast. It was the truth. By the time Ford came knocking with their brand new Mustang Boss 302, Smokey's name was whispered across pit lanes like a curse, because everyone knew if Yunick touched a car it would either fly or explode trying. The Boss 302 was designed for the Trans Am series, agile, light, and tuned for road courses. But Smokey looked at it and saw something different. He didn't want to dance through corners. He wanted to destroy ovals. He wanted to turn this pony car into a missile. So, he stripped the magnesium components and replaced them with heavy-duty steel, stronger, hungrier, made for Talladega's brutal banking. He redesigned the suspension, reinforced every joint, and rebuilt the heart of the car from the inside out. Under the hood, he transformed the 302 cubic inch V8 into a screaming banshee, tuned to survive at 8,000 revolutions per minute. Where others feared the red line, Smokey lived there. But then came his masterpiece. The bundle of Snake's headers, massive twisting exhaust tubes that looked like art and sounded like thunder. To make them fit, he moved the entire steering system outside the frame rails, something no sane engineer would ever attempt. That one insane decision gave him room to unleash airflow no one had ever dreamed of. When he fired up the engine, the Mustang didn't growl. It howled. It wasn't a car anymore. It was a declaration of war. September 1969. The newly built Talladega Superspeedway, the deadliest track America had ever seen. 33 degrees of banking. 2.5 miles of pure speed. Even NASCAR's greatest drivers, Richard Petty, David Pearson, boycotted the race. The surface was too rough. Tires exploded at 180 miles per hour. It was a track built to crown gods or bury them. While the legends packed up and left, Smokey stayed. Because where others saw danger, he saw opportunity. His black and gold Mustang Boss 302 sat under the Alabama sun, gleaming like a predator ready to strike. Behind the wheel was Bunky Blackburn, a driver crazy enough to trust Smokey's creation. When the engine started, the entire pit lane turned to look. The Mustang didn't sound like a car. It sounded like a hurricane trapped in metal. Qualifying day. The air was thick with heat and tension. Bunky strapped in. Smokey leaned into the window, cigarette dangling from his lips. He muttered just 3 words. "Don't lift. Ever." The green flag dropped. And in that instant, history began. The black and gold Boss 302 tore down the straightaway. Claws sunk into the tarmac, engine screaming. The stopwatch didn't lie. 177 miles per hour. Pole position. 5 miles an hour faster than anyone else on the grid. In a car built for corners, Smokey had built a missile that conquered ovals. The pit crews went silent. The reporters stared. Smokey just exhaled smoke and smiled. He'd done it. He had broken racing itself. Race day. The crowd roared. Engines thundered. And Bunky launched the Mustang like a bullet leaving the barrel. Within minutes, he was gone, leaving everyone else in his dust. Lap after lap, the gap widened. 10 laps in, half the field lapped. 20 laps, the entire grid destroyed. Smokey's car wasn't racing. It was rewriting the laws of motion. But then, around lap 60, Smokey heard it. A faint tick beneath the roar. Only a man who'd lived inside engines could hear it. Something was wrong. The tick grew louder. The vibration spread. Lap 72, the Mustang began to cough.
Lap 80. Silence.
The engine died. A single rocker arm, a piece no bigger than your palm, had snapped under the strain. The car that defied physics had been defeated by a fragment of steel. As Bunky coasted to a stop, the crowd didn't cheer. They stared, because they all knew they'd just witnessed something impossible. Smokey's car didn't win that day, but victory wasn't the point. He had proved something, that one man, with a garage full of tools and a mind full of rebellion, could outsmart Detroit's billion-dollar industry. And that terrified them. Within days, Ford executives met behind closed doors. Smokey's car had humiliated every factory-backed team. Shelby, Holman Moody, Bud Moore. He had done what their polished engineers couldn't. To corporate eyes, that wasn't genius, that was chaos. NASCAR's leadership wasn't happy either. Bill France Sr., the founder, had built Talladega to showcase control, his rules, his sport. Smokey Yunick represented the one thing he couldn't control: freedom. So, the suppression began. Phone calls were made. Files went missing. Regulations were rewritten. And just like that, Smokey's innovations were quietly outlawed, never mentioned by name. Ford disbanded its experimental GT projects. Funding disappeared. And Smokey's Boss 302, the fastest Mustang ever built, was shelved, forgotten, buried under red tape and corporate fear. Years later, engineers who examined the car were stunned. Not because it broke the rules, but because it didn't. Every part was legal, every modification within the book. Smokey had simply thought decades ahead. He didn't cheat. He evolved. But the industry wasn't ready for evolution. They wanted marketing, not revolution. So they silenced him. Smokey returned to Daytona, head down, cigarette burning low. He never complained. He didn't have to. Everyone already knew what had happened. Decades passed. The Boss 302 became a rumor, a whisper told over beers in garages. But legends have a way of surviving. Eventually, one of Smokey's original cars was found, dusty, scarred, and still wearing its black and gold livery. Restored to perfection, it roared back to life. A living ghost from 1969. When it appeared at vintage races, people stopped and stared. Because that sound, that impossible, otherworldly howl, was still there. And as researchers studied the car, they found something chilling. Smokey's ideas were decades ahead of their time. Ventilated brake wheels, now standard in racing. Reverse rotation starters, later used in endurance cars. External steering systems, adopted by Formula One in the 1990s. Smokey had built the future in 1969. Then came the real mystery. Among his old papers, collectors found fragments of unseen designs, notes, schematics, and tuning maps never used on the Talladega Mustang. References to aerodynamic packages. Something called a power recovery system. Technology so advanced it could have pushed his car into speeds no one had ever reached. And some say there was a second Boss 302, a sister car completed, tested, and hidden before the race. It vanished. No record, no photos, nothing. In Daytona, old-timers still whisper about a locked storage unit Smokey kept until his death. No one has ever opened it. And they say inside lies the truth about the car that was too fast to be allowed to win. Today, Smokey Yunick's Boss 302 sits behind glass, silent, untouchable. To most, it's just a relic. But to those who know the story, it's something else entirely. Proof that one man, with no permission and no fear, can bend the future with his bare hands. Because that's the thing about legends, you can bury them, rewrite them, erase them from the archives, but you can't kill them. Somewhere, in a dusty garage in Florida, a locked door still waits. And maybe, just maybe, behind it sits the car that changed everything, waiting for someone brave enough to turn the key again. If you love stories about machines that were too wild for the world that built them, you just witnessed one of the greatest untold conspiracies in motorsport history. Smokey Yunick didn't just build cars. He built dreams too dangerous to survive. If you believe legends like this deserve to be remembered, hit that like button, share this story with a friend, and subscribe for more rare car stories the world tried to forget. Because next time, we'll uncover another machine they never wanted you to see.